This is Canada Reads American Style, featuring two friends who love Canada Reads and Canadian literature. Welcome our host Rebecca from Michigan and Tara from Ontario.
Hello and welcome to Canada Reads American Style. This is Tara and I'm here with Rebecca. Hello, Rebecca.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Awesome. And we are here for our March book chat number 25. Rebecca reminded me that is our
Silver.
silver anniversary book chat. I have no idea, but it's a big moment for us because that's 25 book chats. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Anything going on interesting in your life?
I got to babysit two of my little ones today. One is 7 and one is turning 5 on Monday, I think it is. And I am older and I'm exhausted. So I just like to throw that out there. I'm kind of tired.
Yeah, I couldn't do younger ones right now.
And it's so funny because they have one more in the family who's a year younger. And I kind of laughed. And usually they come over once they're potty trained, so like fully potty trained. And so I said, oh, look, in one more year, I can have the other one. And I went, oh, God, I don't know if I can handle two,
You,
especially two young boys.
you should not have thrown that out there.
I should have kept my mouth shut.
Yep.
How about you? What have you been up to?
Oh my gosh, nothing really. I'm trying to think. I know I went out today, nothing exciting, but I just went out to run to the library to pick up a book. And I refused to wear my winter jacket, which is fine because it was a sunny, warm day. And I'm like, I am tired of putting on a winter jacket. I went out in my little denim jacket. And I'm like, I don't care if I'm cold. I'm like, I'm just running to the library and back. But I just needed a spring vibe, a feel.
I've actually gone out for a walk with just long sleeve t-shirts on
Nice.
and walked and been perfectly comfortable. So yeah, we've had some nice weather and some sunshine, which I don't know if you all are like this, but Michigan is like the second cloudiest state in the country. So we get so much winter clouds. And so it's just nice when the sun comes out a little bit. And yeah, so I'm happy.
Yep, me too. Okay, should we jump right into our book chat?
Sure thing.
Okay, do you want to start us off with your first book?
This is kind of fun to start off with this one. Just
Okay.
it'll take me like a minute maybe. I just have to say, according to my goal of reading about clever, mischievous, strong girls, whatever that terminology is that I used for my goal, I read Pippi Longstocking, and I have to tell you, I love Pippi Longstocking so
She's
much. I
amazing.
can't even tell you how much I love her. Everything about this kid, I want to be Pippi when I grow
Mhm.
up or in my next life. I think she's 7. I want to be living in my house by myself, not going to school and in charge of my life in the same way that Pippi is. And she's also the strongest person in the world. She's so physically strong. And I loved it so much that I bought the 3 books in the series, the original 3 books, and I cannot wait to read the other 2. And so I just want to say out there, if you have kids at home, doesn't matter their gender, please read Pippi to them because they will love this kid. She is freaking hilarious. I laughed out loud at some of it.
Mhm.
So I am so very, very happy that I have finally, after a million years, read my beloved Pippi Longstocking.
Yep,
And I
that's
think
awesome.
you recommended her to me, I think.
I
Yeah.
think so. I loved Pippi when I was a kid, and because you just read her, I actually went out. I have a Pippi book, but I could not find my Pippi book, so I actually went out and bought a Pippi book because I'm going to be rereading Pippi very shortly as well, and I cannot wait to dive back in.
Yeah, it was just such a highlight of my year so far, and I think this goal is just a really fun goal. So, especially around here, things are just so dark and hard in
Mhm.
right now, and so just being able to go into a really fantasy life of one of these kids has just been a blast. So, I love
Yep.
it.
Um, before I move on to my first book, have you chosen your next like children's book that you're going to read?
That's so funny. I'll tell you what, I'll put a little teaser out here. The next
Yeah.
time we do our YouTube where we do our reading from our shelves, I will
Yep.
show you what I'll be reading next because I think I picked up 3 other books that people had recommended to me. And I
Okay.
just decided one day, it was like one of those self-care days. I said, I'm going to the bookstore and I'm going to buy some kids' books that will make me happy that other people have recommended. So I bought Pippi and I bought a couple of others. So my teaser will be, stay tuned for the next YouTube reading from our shelves, and I will show off what I bought.
Awesome. Awesome. I
Yay.
look forward to that too.
Yeah.
Okay, so my first book that I'm bringing to our book chat is my currently reading fiction book, and that is The Lady of Rapture by Sarah Raughley. So this is the third book. Yes, this is the
Oh,
finale.
I
I
can't
know, I'm
wait to
so
read
excited.
this. Yeah.
I'm so excited. I just started it last night. So this is the finale in the Bones of Ruin trilogy, which I know I've mentioned before. I've brought the other two books to the podcast. We actually interviewed Sarah in October of 2024. So I recommend going back and listening to that if you're interested. So this is the third book in the trilogy. I don't want to give you a synopsis of the third book because if anyone out there is interested in reading the trilogy, this will ruin the first couple of books for you. So I will just introduce the series as a whole with the main character and just tell you that the main character is Iris Marlowe, who is an African tightrope dancer working in London in the 1880s. She has no memory of her past and a very special power in that she is unable to die, which is what allows her to do a lot of her more daring acrobatic tightrope tricks.
Wow.
She befriends, so Iris is also just a teenager. And there are other teenagers in the city of London. Something happened that gave them special powers. And in this book, Sarah explores issues of colonialism, racism, capitalism. I'm just, the more I read this series, the more I enjoy it. And I've only maybe, I think, 70 pages into this third book. And I love it so much. I love the world she has created.
Is this going to be just a trilogy, or do you think it's continuing?
I think it's just a trilogy. So I
Okay.
think this is it. This is the finale. But no fear, because Sarah just had her latest book was just published in January called The Queen's Spade, which is on my list to read next.
I have to admit,
Yeah.
when you first mentioned the book, I thought it was the Queen's Spade you were talking about,
Yes.
because that's why I got all excited, because
Yeah.
the series one I probably won't read just because I don't do series too
Yeah.
often, but
And they're big
I
books too.
yeah, and I really want to read the Queen's Spade, because
Yes.
that one sounds really, oh, I can't wait to read that one.
Yeah. Oh, she's really good. Like I'm seeing this series just like develop over these three books with the same characters throughout the books, and she's so good bringing in. Obviously, it's fantasy, but it's set in a historical period in time, and she's so good at bringing in all these issues and
Hmm.
exploring them, like in a very accessible way. But yeah, I like her writing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, she is. I mean, she's a fairly sort of a fairly new author, but she
Hmm.
is dynamite. It
Yeah.
sounds like, just from the get-go.
Yeah. Okay, what's next for you?
My second one I want to mention is, and I have to look up the title here to get the full title because it actually has a long one. It's called Victory, period, stand, exclamation point, raising my fist for justice. And it was written by Tommie Smith. It's a graphic novel, and Derrick Barnes is the person who I believe did the illustration. Oh no, now I'm not sure who wrote it and who illustrated it now. So it'll be in the show notes, but I'm certainly not going to try and pronounce the names, and I'm not sure who did what. So
Hmm.
I'll leave that for the notes. But anyway, it's basically, if you remember back in many of you won't, but in the Mexico City Olympics in 1968, Tommie Smith was a gold medal winner, and he and John Carlos, who was the bronze medal winner for the 200-meter sprint, stood on the podium to accept their medals and raised their fists. They were two African American men. This was at the height of the civil rights movement in 1968, and they were forced to leave the Olympics. They never got to finish any of the other runs that they were supposed to do. They received death threats, faced ostracism, economic hardship throughout their lives. But anyway, it was a graphic novel, and it is first of all, it's so beautifully illustrated. Sometimes with graphic novels, I struggle sometimes to identify who's who because sometimes the images will look slightly different and then I'm not sure if that's still the main character. You know, I get a little confused sometimes, but this was so tight in terms of its illustrations. It's beautiful renditions of and it feels almost like you're looking at photographs. It's like
Mhm.
it's really clean and crisp and everything. So it's absolutely amazing. And what I didn't know, because I actually remember the Olympics. I remember when that happened, when they stood on the podium and did that. And I just remember at the time thinking, damn, that is a bold, like I was 9, but I remember thinking that is a freaking bold move because because I know like people were so shocked by it and everything. So, but to learn more about Tommie Smith and how he started out in his life, they were sharecroppers, his family, they had to move, you know, for economics, racism in the South. I mean, it was just awful. And to see how hard scrabble his life was and for him to get where he was. And then he went to school at San Jose State. I think it was San Jose State in California, and how the black students there were ostracized and taunted and, you know, people yelling names at them. It just is so weird because when you think of California, you don't always think of it just didn't feel like California would have had that level of racism that you saw everywhere else, but of course they did. That was a little bit of a surprise for me to realize it. And I just thought it was such a beautiful, compelling story. I loved reading about his life. I think it's a YA graphic novel, but I just really want to recommend, especially I know people are often, especially like in February, looking for Black History Month books. So I would say I'd hate to have you wait till next February, so read it whenever, but, it just it's an incredible story. It's an incredible story, and it's beautifully rendered and definitely worth reading this book.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, my next book is my current nonfiction read, and I'm actually doing this through audio. So I don't read a
Oh,
lot, listen to a lot of audiobooks, but I saw this one. I got it from NetGalley actually. So it's going to be released. I'm reading it now, but I think it's the publication date is the end of March anyways. The book is How to Survive a Bear Attack by Claire Cameron. I know,
I
right?
would love this.
Yes, you would. And I think it was soon as I saw that. And shocker, it's a blend of memoir and nature writing, which is like my new favorite kind of memoir. Uh, so Claire Cameron, Canadian journalist and novelist, but this is her first memoir. She confronts the rare genetic mutation that gave her cancer in her 40s, which is the same cancer from which her father died from when she was a young girl. At the same time, so when she's undergoing the treatment and has gotten the diagnosis, she then starts becoming, I'm going to say obsessive, but not in, let's interested. She does a deep dive into a predatory bear attack that occurred in Algonquin Park in the 1990s. I think it was 93. I can't remember. But so the book so far goes back and forth between talking about the bear attack and a memoir of her life, her father's illness, her meeting her husband and stuff. The audiobook is read by her. So oh no, I should take that back. I'm not sure. I just made that up. I just totally made that up. But I do like the narrator of the audiobook. Um, I'm just super. So we moved to Ontario in, I think it was around 98, around like late 90s kind of thing. And my husband and I, before we had children, we started camping at Algonquin and one time went on a like backcountry canoe trip to the lake where this bear attack had happened 5 years
Oh,
earlier. If I had
oh,
known that, no, I would not. I would not have gone on this canoe trip because, yeah, it's just that would have scared me. So,
yeah.
anyways, the book is very interesting. She gets into bear biology, which I love. And then at the same time, she's looking at what made this bear's behavior different, like how this became a predatory attack on this young couple, as opposed to normally a bear, your chances of being attacked by a bear are very, very low. She gives stats at one point, and like bear attacks are way at the bottom kind of thing. So
You know, as they always say, the risk is low, but it's never zero, right?
never zero.
And it makes me laugh because I have listened to so many podcasts about people that have been attacked by animals because it's kind of fascinating to me. And I have to tell you, I heard one podcast about somebody attacked by a polar bear, and that was terrifying.
Mm,
That story was terrifying, and I've heard others. And so even though I know my risk is low, I still don't want to go where there are bears.
no, no. And I know we did see a bear once in Algonquin when we were camping, and this was not in the back country. This just like in one of the regular campgrounds, and it was just the two of us, but obviously lots of campsites around us. And this bear kind of went down the road and through the campsite next to us, and Mike and I were like, "Holy shit!" And then this family running behind it, chasing after the bear to see it, and I was like, "Stupid asses!" But yeah, can you imagine? Like, one, it was cool seeing a bear, but two, thank God it was in retreat and very quickly because it's a bear. It's a wild animal. Have some respect, people.
This is what I don't I mean, we've all seen the videos, right? Of the people who walk up to moose or buffalo at
Mhm.
Yosemite or whatever, or what's the other one? I can't think of. Anyway, and you think to yourself, what is wrong with you people? These It's not like a cartoon character.
No.
It's not like a zoo. Like you're putting yourself, your children, and everyone else and the animal at risk because
Yeah.
honestly, if the animal does damage, then they're going to kill the animal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Anyways, so great book. I think you would really enjoy it. So far, I'm like, I think 40% in, really enjoying it. I love the bear story. I love the bear facts, and I'm really enjoying her memoir aspect of it as well.
This is a great walking book, like, to listen to when
Yes.
I'm walking, so I am gonna put a star next to that, and I'm gonna look and see if I can find it. Oh, man, that's a good one.
Yep.
Cool. This one I've had for a while. It was one of the books I give myself a year to,
Mhm.
read, and so, I'm right about on track for this one. Again, it's another graphic novel. This is an adult graphic novel. It's Wake: The Hidden History of Women-Led Slave Revolts by Rebecca Hall. And this is fantastic. This book is not just about the slave revolts, it's really about Rebecca Hall's history of researching them as well and trying to dig to find the information. I'm going to read the quote that I put in my Instagram, Bookstagram post because this was really interesting. She said, I knew, however, that the intuition of historians of slavery was distorted by their beliefs about women. They exist in a weird echo chamber where they keep telling one another in their books and with their research that women didn't participate in revolts. As I had found in my research on slave revolts in colonial New York, if you believe something doesn't exist, you don't go looking for it. Worse, if you stumble on it, you still can't see it. Laying aside gendered assumptions, I could start over and ask, why would there be more revolts on ships where there were more women? And there is a reason why when were that many women on a ship that they were more prone to revolts. And also the revolts that did happen, women were mentioned in the research. She was doing this amazing primary research back to like the 16 and 1700s. It was amazing what she was able to find in the archives all over the world. She even went to England and was looking for records there. So it was an amazing graphic novel. In some ways, I thought, oh, I wish this had been a fully fleshed book.
Mhm.
But then I thought, I think it was hard to find what she was looking for, but the way in which she found it, or what she found, was probably better to be able to tell it in a graphic novel, to see the images of the people, the places, and their experiences, which isn't fully fleshed out. So I think that format worked perfectly. I think that was just the right way to do it. So I want to highly recommend this graphic novel. The things I learned in this, it just kind of took my breath away. It was amazing. I loved this book. Absolutely
Okay.
loved it.
I'm adding that to mind. Now, this is what I'm putting it out there. This was not planned, but your book was a perfect segue into my next book.
Oh,
I
okay.
know, because my next book is Harriet Tubman live in concert by Bob the Drag Queen. So it's no secret that I love drag and I love drag queens, and Bob the Drag Queen is one of my favorite, and this is his debut novel.
Oh,
I
okay.
know, I know. So it's published on March 25th, 2025. So we got another week or so before it's out into the world. And I got mine through NetGalley. So thank you very much, NetGalley, for this. So here we go. Takes place in a world in which great historical figures return. Not like in a zombie, not at all in a zombie threatening way. They just return. Great historical figures are just back in the present day world walking among us. There is no explanation for this in the book. So if you're going in looking wanting an explanation for how this happens, you're not going to get it because these people are just there and the story just happens. And one of those people that comes back is Harriet Tubman, along with four of the enslaved people that she led to freedom. And these five people want to tell their story, but they want to tell it through music. And they enlist the help of Darnell Williams, who was a once successful hip hop producer and songwriter, but who's been out of the limelight for the last, I think, probably like quite a while. It seems like a decade at the time. But when Harriet Tubman asks him to help, he's not going to say no because it's Harriet Tubman. And Harriet is fierce. Oh my God, she is amazing in this book. So Darnell helps Harriet and her four friends create an album and a live show to go with the album. And during this, when I was reading this, to me, it really felt like Bob the Drag Queen's answer to all of those people who want critical race theory removed from the school system or education systems. Then you just go read this book because it's there. Like I don't know everything, but I learned even more. And it was even like Harriet was teaching Darnell. Like there was just so much American history, Black American history in this book told in such a great way. Like you're getting it from Harriet Tubman. You're getting it from the people who were there. So I love that. And Darnell as a character, he's obviously, there's a reason that he has not been in the music industry in the last 10 years. So he has to come to terms with his past, and Harriet and friends help him come to terms with the past too. And as a special little addition to this is thanks to our friend of the podcast, Zerelda. She sent me this link. Bob himself is a musician and he has a video available on YouTube and is called Queen of the Underground. It's his music video that goes along with this book. So please go check it out. It's awesome. I watched it twice when I originally watched it. I'll probably go watch it again after this.
Yeah, I'll link to that. I'll
Yeah.
link to it in the show notes. Now, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a little bit or not at all like, for example, how Percival Everett writes in terms of bringing back historical characters and putting that twist of humor and rage on it and vengeance? Nothing like that, though.
A twist, but not the rage, not the
Mhm.
vengeance. Yeah. Like a little bit of the rage, obviously, because how can there not be
Yeah.
if you're, you know, a Black person writing about this? There's going to be, but none of Percival's vengeance.
Yeah, that I like that cathartic
Yeah.
vengeance that I love so much in his
Yeah.
books. Yeah.
There's, there's a Carth I can't say that word. Not
Cathartic.
cathartic, but
Yeah.
in a different
Oh,
so let's
go ahead.
no, it is. But I was gonna say, but it's emotional. It's like emotional, like it for them, for the characters.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. Oh, I like that. Oh,
Yeah.
that definitely sounds good. All right. Well, I have to tell you, my last book dovetails nicely with your book number 2 about how to survive a bear attack
Oh,
because there is a book titled, whoops, the book is titled Why Fish Don't Exist: A Story of Loss, Love, and the Hidden Order of Life. And the reason I read this book is I can't remember how it's some. I'll link it to the show notes, but I can't remember right off the bat which book award did it. I don't know if it's the Booker or somebody put out their long list for
Mhm.
nonfiction,
Okay.
and our friend of the podcast, Jen, Book Fiend, she asked me, she said, I'd like to read some nonfiction. Would you buddy read something with me?
Mm.
I said, sure. I looked at the list of, I think, 12 or 15 books. And honestly, there are so many on there I want to read. I can't even tell you. So I picked this one, which is such a weird title. And normally I would have never picked this book up ever if Jen hadn't said, let's do a book together. I'm not kidding you. And this could very well be it'll be in my top 3 of the year. I'm pretty sure, even though
Wow.
it's only March. That's how great this book is. So if you're somebody who wants to read, like you want to read nonfiction, but you don't know where to go with it, look at the books on this award list because they're amazing. So again, something you probably wouldn't pick up, but here's why it's good. So I'll just read a little bit of the description. It says, a wondrous debut from an extraordinary new voice in nonfiction. Why Fish Don't Exist is a dark and astonishing tale of love, chaos, scientific obsession, and possibly even murder. David Starr Jordan was a taxonomist, a man possessed with bringing order to the natural world. In time, he would be credited with discovering nearly a fifth of the fish known to humans in his day. But the more of the hidden blueprint of life he uncovered, the harder the universe seemed to try to thwart him. So the so here's why it's like your book. It's part memoir because it is about Lulu Miller's life. She has a relationship that goes south and she spends a lot of time trying to process this loss, trying to get it back. You don't she doesn't go into a great detail about that, but you just know she's upfront about saying, I was looking for something to give me some meaning on how to move forward. And she discovers this David Starr Jordan, right? So it's fascinating because on one hand, she's looking for somebody to help her move forward. And she's using him as her touchstone, but OMG, his freaking backstory and life is it will blow your fucking socks off. I'm going to say it. I'm just no, really. Because and here's what I'm saying to people. I made the mistake of saying, "Who is this guy?" And I kind of, I googled it and then it gave away too much. I read too much.
Mm. Mm.
Didn't ruin the book for me, but I kept in the book. I kept thinking, is she going to bring all this other stuff up about this man that is shocking? And of course she does. So I would have loved to have uncovered it without finding out anything beforehand. So I'm not giving any spoilers whatsoever. David Starr Jordan is a freaking monster. He's a monster. And she was using him as her touchstone. So, and then eventually she realizes, you know, perhaps he's not the right person as a role model. But then you find out why she needs that role model. Partly her father in the beginning of the book, and this is the thing that we laugh about it now, that this will stay with me from now until I die. When she was like 7 years old, she said to her dad, who was a scientist, "What's the meaning of life?" And he basically said, "There is no meaning of life. There's nothing. Nobody's coming to save us. There's da 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 da." And I said to Jen, I said, "Oh my God, if my father had said that to me when I was 7, I would have been a basket case for the rest of my entire
Yeah.
life." And so on some level, I think that's what triggered her crisis, I really do.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I walked away from it just one of the key things I walked away with was how much scientific research affects us on a freaking daily basis that we don't even know or
Yeah.
why until you start to realize these people, these white men of science, did us dirty, man, let me tell you. And plus, they continue to on some, in many ways that we don't even still understand. Like, I think it's ongoing. I think and I don't think science does it with malice. I think it's what they think they believe or what they feel they've discovered or they know. But there's almost like there's no friggin' humanity in it.
Hmm.
And here's the other thing. Turns out fish don't exist. There you go. I said it.
Okay, I'm totally
Seriously.
intrigued. This is moving way up
Yeah.
on my TBR.
Fish. And when she explains why, that fish don't exist, and they haven't existed for so long. I didn't read it. I didn't know this. Blew my socks off again.
Okay.
So
Okay. Excellent. Excellent.
everybody should read this book. Okay,
Okay.
that's it.
Excellent. Oh my God, mine is mine is such like a downer next to you. My last one next after that is like, "Meh, meh," but we must all have balance. So I'm bringing us. I'm going to end our book chat here, although I think we're doing a little something extra at the end. But the last book that I'm going to discuss today is a thriller, and it is called
Hmm.
Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. I read this for my in-person book club a couple of weeks ago. It's just a fun thriller. It's a good palate cleanser, very quickly. So writer Grady, his wife mysteriously disappears on the night that his latest book becomes a bestseller. He's talking to her on the phone, and then she's gone.
Oh.
A year later, he's still grieving. He's in a funk writerly wise. He can't write a book. So filled with grief, unable to write, his agent contacts him and offers him the use of a cottage on an isolated Scottish island, which I loved the setting of this book. The island is amazing. There's even a map, and I love a map in a book. I've never seen a thriller with a map, I don't think. So there's a map of the island, which I loved. It gave me like, even though the rest of the book doesn't have it, gave me like cozy vibes because there's a
Hmm.
map of all the little shops and stuff. Anyways, as he settles into island life, he sees a woman who looks exactly like his wife. And that's all I'm going to say. It's a
Ooh.
fun read. It's a quick read. Uh, it's Obviously it's got a twist or a couple of twists at the end. I finished it. I went, huh. And then about 2 days later, I went, wait a minute. Like it was like, I think I get it now. So it's just a fun book. It's just a fun book. It's not going to be life changing, but it's a fun book. She has another one. This is the first one I've read by Alice Feeney, but an earlier one, I think it's called Daisy Darker, something like that, which I can't tell you what it's about, but I remember I've heard good things about it, so it's on my list to read at some point or another. I would read more by this author, so,
Oh, good.
yeah. Okay, there we go. Book chat 25 in the books. But we have coming up very soon. It really threw itself on Rebecca and I because we were like, what the hell? It's next week. Um, March 17th begins Canada Reads.
Yeah.
So, Rebecca, how's your Canada Reads reading going?
So I've read four. I'll just run through them really quickly.
Hmm.
Everybody knows them. Kind of a Jenny's Boy, Watch Out for Her, Etta and Otto and Russell and James. And also then the last one was Dandelion. Now I did not read the Two Spirit one, which I'll let you talk about if you want to mention that one. But I didn't read it because I asked you some questions about it, and I tried picking it up a couple of times and reading it, and for some reason it didn't grab me. And I think it's one of those books that sounds like a difficult book to
Hmm.
read in terms of the subject matter, and I'm not in a good place right now where that was going to work for me. And so I just felt, I know I'm going to struggle through it. And I just didn't want to force myself to read something that emotionally I just am not in a place to read it right now. Yeah.
Yeah. I just recently, so as of, yesterday morning, I finished the fifth one. So the last one I read was the Jenny's Boy, so memoir. So I'm all ready to go. Yes, I enjoyed four of the five books. So even though I found Two Spirit Journey to be a very difficult read, I think it's to know Mani's story, her life story. It's a very important story to have out there. I just did not enjoy the style of the writing.
Hmm.
So that's I was torn on that book, like whether I really enjoyed it or not. It's one of those books that,
Hmm.
yeah, you know.
Yeah. Well, and that was partly, I mean, kind of when you and I talked about it, and then I read, like I said, I did try it a couple of times. I tried to start it. And that was the thing. It had a style for me that was it felt very linear in some ways. And I don't know that that's a style. Again, it wasn't going to grab me. in that same way. It just didn't when I tried reading it. And also, I know that the author, her the person she wrote that wrote it with her, was really kind of doing it to kind of as an archival thing to make sure that there was a record of her life for future generations. And so I think she comes from a like a pretty academic background, I guess, and had that kind of almost like an ethnography kind of style,
Yes.
maybe. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so that's why I thought, oh, I just don't think right now I'm not in a place where I want to read this. And I felt like I was going to have to work a little too hard for it. And that's what kind of turned me off of it. Although I did listen to her interview on the next chapter, and I loved hearing her talk about her life. That was amazing. And I do look forward to the debates and how her defender defends the book, because I do think and interestingly, that's the book you and I both said we felt would win,
Yeah.
right? Way back when we knew nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. I felt the same way about you, as you. Like, the linear writing just didn't do it for me, because it was, Monty's life was so filled with trauma. And to just have it just like bam, 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 bam. It was overwhelming at times. It was just really difficult to read and get through. Likewise, her interview on the next chapter, I could listen to her talk for hours,
Hmm.
and I her voice, I found when listening to her, I her voice doesn't come through in the writing, because
Oh,
that's what
yeah.
I found. Like, I'm like, okay, I like it did and it didn't, like that, really, that
Well, she had a real
warmth.
warmth. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, warmth.
right?
Mhm.
And I didn't find that come through in the writing at all. And I understand what, I think her last name was Plummer, what she was doing, the reason why she wrote it like that. But I don't know. I wanted some more warmth. I wanted some more Monty.
What do we think will get voted off first based on the fact that we don't know who the defenders are or how they will do, but just our instinct about who's gonna go off first, who could be the last one standing? How do you feel about that?
I think it will be the thriller. One, because it's genre, and that has nothing to do with genre, that it's genre fiction, because I love that genre fiction is being introduced into Canada Reads, but they continue to choose the wrong genre fiction.
Yeah,
And it's just, I just did not enjoy the book. It just
yeah,
is not,
yeah.
just, I did not think it was a good representation of the thriller genre,
Yes.
you know? So
I love the way you said that, yeah.
sorry. Yes, I
Yeah.
feel so bad because we're so rarely critical of books, but we have no choice. The book is out there. It's going to be part of Canada Reads. So I'm going to be honest. So I think it will be the first voted out, because they generally do seem to go for the genre. It's an easy one to vote out on the first day.
I totally agree with you, but I would also argue that if they gave a stronger genre, like the romance last year, which I could not read, and this one, which I did read, and it was really pretty funny because, as I said before on one of the earlier podcasts, I said, when I can figure out who did it, then I don't think it's a strong thriller because I'm not good at figuring it out. I'm so bad at it.
Yeah.
So my thing is, if I can figure it out, you've not done your job, really. And then secondly, I was kind of saying to you, because I didn't want to influence you, but after you read it, I was like, yeah, it wasn't the best thing thriller I've ever read. It wasn't the worst one I've ever read. And then you and I started talking about it, and I was like, yeah, I didn't like that part either, or that part, or that. So I think I disliked it more after you and
I
I
know. I'm so
talked.
sorry.
No, no, it's okay, but it's funny because when you started to point out things, I that's when I started going like, yeah, you know what, I didn't like that part, or whatever. And so I agree. I think last year's romance went out first. This one probably will go out first. And I think it's because in both cases, and no shade to the authors,
Mhm.
because honestly, they're successful writers.
Oh,
And so
yes. Yeah.
they don't need our support in any way. But I just feel like I know there have to be stellar thrillers or romances, and that those are the ones they need to bring to the show. And I think if people are really committed to bringing genre onto it, and because it sounds like last year and this year they claim they wanted to be able to make that inroad for their genre, right? Which I support, that's fine. But I wish then somehow they would let the CBC Books staff work with them to pull out the best of the best, because
Yeah.
in both last year and this year, those were not the best of the best of those 2 genre.
Yeah. I'm going to put it out there. If anyone on CBC is listening, and no one probably is, or any future
Yeah,
defenders, please look at Sarah Raughley. Her books would make amazing, amazing picks for if you want to do like introduce fantasy into like historical fiction fantasy into Canada Reads. Her books would be amazing.
that's a great thing. Yeah.
I'll throw out another. There's a Canadian Nicole Lundgren who writes thrillers. Oh my gosh, I love her thrillers. I don't think I've not sure if I've brought her latest. This was a couple years ago. Hers would be great thrillers
Oh, wow.
options. Yeah. Come on,
There you
Canada
go.
Reads. Come on.
Okay, I think you should send them a letter or an email or something and tell them to put
They
her
could
on the
also
list.
hire me as a consultant. I would
There
love
you go.
that too. Putting that there. I
I
can
love
help you
it.
choose.
So who do we think is the last one? Who do you think is the last one standing, and who I'll tell you what I think. And this is just
I
a crapshoot guess.
Yeah. I think it will be Etta and Otto and Russell and James and Two Spirit Journey. I think those will be the two ones standing at the end. As to which one is going to be the final one, I don't know. That one you do need to know the defenders just one
Yeah.
because once it becomes head to head, it's a little more difficult.
So mine, I still think it's gonna be Etta and Otto. I still think that.
Yep.
But I also oof, think it's gonna be Dandelion.
Mm,
I do.
I think that will be the book that if it doesn't win, everyone will be upset that it didn't win. You
Yeah.
know?
Because I think Jenny's Boy, I think too many people seem to not get the humor in it. They don't appreciate the humor. And my big thing about that book, and I think I said this during the podcast. I don't remember, but the thing about Jenny's book that I really love, or Jenny's Boy that I really loved, is that I felt like the voice of that entire story was the voice of a 7-year-old boy looking back that 1 year of his life. It wasn't an adult looking back and having processed his trauma. It is
Mhm.
a 7-year-old boy just telling you straight out, just telling you a story of what his life was like. And I don't think everybody necessarily felt that way. And I think they focused a lot on the trauma and missed the humor, you know?
Yeah. Miss the love too. I'll be honest, like it was a dysfunctional family, obviously. But I will go down as going, that family loved each other at the same time, like, they loved each other, they really did, even the brother who would, like, maybe beat up Wayne at one point, the next time he's like, "It's okay, I got you," like, Wayne's throwing up and he's rubbing his back as he's throwing up. They loved each other, they stuck together, dysfunctional or not.
And I listened to, again, his interview on the next chapter. And I thought, "Oh, I just wanna get that guy alone in a room and just say, I need you to answer my questions." Like, I have a
Yeah,
million questions for him about his family that I don't think he would ever just tell you, but I would just like to say, "Dude, I need you to tell me the truth about this, and this," 'cause
yeah.
I think there were so many things unsaid because, again, it was 1 year of that kid's life, and I think that's probably his only memoir, right? Probably
That's
is?
why I'm hoping he's gonna write another one, to be honest, but I've only read, I think, 2 of his older fictions. But when I was going through this after I finished, I started reading through his bio online, and he has another book called The Baltimore Mansion, which I thought was a fiction, but actually it's a memoir of his father and grandfather. So
Oh.
I'm like, "Oh, that's going on my list."
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, man,
Yeah.
I'm writing that one down.
Let me
Okay.
just double check that. I don't wanna, because sometimes I do make stuff up.
Yeah, I
I
wanna
hate to.
read that then.
Yep, Baltimore's Mansion. Yeah,
Okay. I
yeah,
have to read
a
that too.
memoir. Okay.
Yeah, because his father, just that always just, like, that dysfunctional cycle of his father like drinking too much and then everybody hating him and then everybody loving him. that
Yeah.
that really sick, twisted cycle of
Yeah.
abuse to the whole family. Oh my Lord, that was
Which
something
they
else.
even did then to each other, even to Wayne. They did it to Wayne as well, like,
Well, that's what I mean.
you know?
Craig,
Yeah.
every time Craig was screaming at him and abusing him verbally, and then he would turn around and love him afterwards, I thought, dang, there's that whole just you could see it
Thing.
within that two-person relationship, the way the whole family was. And then
Yeah.
even his grandmother, some of the stuff she said to him just seemed so mean. And yet, apparently they all saw that as just this deep, abiding, hilarious love that grandma had for for Wayne that I was like, okay. I don't know,
Yeah.
man. That was anyway. So yeah. So I don't think so I think Jenny's Boy's out of it just in that sense that people I think it's too difficult for a lot of people to see the humor of it, right?
Mhm.
And then like you said, watch out for her. It's going out first. And then Two Spirit, I'm curious to see how well that's defended because like you said, the writing style wasn't maybe the best, but the story is so compelling. So it'll be interesting to see if it is within the last two standing. So,
Yeah.
all right.
I remember I did hear the interview on CBC with, obviously you did too, Shailene. Shailene, I believe is her name, right? The Defender. And what I could see when she was talking of why she chose the book, because she said that she read this book and what happened to Monty, obviously none of us could imagine happening, or hopefully none of us. But it was just a world that she was unfamiliar with, like even living out in the bush and like Monty doing her own hunting and trapping and fishing, that she, as an indigenous person, that was all new to, because she's, oh my gosh, probably in her mid to late 20s. I think she's fairly young, right? So
Mhm.
she's like, Monty lived in a world that she knew nothing about as an indigenous person in Canada in 2025. So I thought that was really interesting. I think I'm really excited to see what she
Yeah.
brings to
Yeah.
the debates for this book.
Yeah, you're right. That may be the kicker then.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's our little mini prediction as we're going into we're days away from the start of it. Woohoo.
Yep. Let us know your predictions, like leave us a comment, send us a DM. Let us know your predictions for Canada Reads.
And let me just say, so the plan for next week is Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Tara and I will be doing we will record a little update or a little summary or whatever for that day. And we will get that posted as soon as I can. Usually maybe by 9 o'clock Eastern time, it will go up. And then on Thursday, the final day, we will be doing a YouTube live with our good friend Jolene, who is Bookworm Adventure Girl. It'll be the three of us having a little chat to wrap up the competition this year. And that'll be a YouTube live, which I don't think we've completely confirmed the exact time yet,
Hmm.
but maybe around
6 or 7.
6 or 7 Eastern Standard Time, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so we look forward to Canada Reads. And oh, one more thing.
We have another plan, of course, this year to speak to Ali Hassan, who is the host for Canada Reads. We have him scheduled for Friday. We think that might possibly also be a live. We are not, I can't remember if that's what we decided or not. And we also know that with Ali's schedule, which is crazy busy all the time, that may get pushed back a little bit, but that's kind of tentatively what we're doing is next Friday. We will be able to wrap up things with him as well as we do every year.
Happy reading, everyone, and we'll see you next week for Canada Reads.
Thank you for joining us on our bookish journey. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing Canada Reads American Style wherever you listen. You can connect with the podcast and Rebecca on Instagram at Canada Reads American Style and with Tara at On a Branch Reads. Until next time, keep reading.